Okay, welcome everyone to our webinar today. We've got the paving lady giving a great paving issues and solutions. So we do have the president on today, Mauro Comuzzi, if you want to give a quick wave. And I am Peggy West. I'm your organizer, event planner. And I just want to say thank you all for joining today. Thank you, sponsors. And I want to also especially thank the board members for taking the time out. I know you're volunteers, and it's very important that you keep up with the information that your managers are keeping up with, and gives you a great insight to possibly ideas, cost, etc. We do have a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, I just want to mention that this is a CEU course, a 1-hour course that's going to be given to you, posted by the paving lady. Give them about a week or so to post them. I know we're coming into license renewal time, but please be patient and check in about a week and a half on the DBPR record. I want to remind everybody, please do not use the chat. I wish I could remove it, but I can't. Use the Q&A box, because the Q&A box is recorded, but the chat box is not recorded. So if there's any questions that are not answered today, the presenter, Mauro, or any of the sponsors, if you have a question for them, can look at the recording following and answer you via email. So please use the Q&A box. This is being recorded, and don't worry about having to write down everybody's information, but some of the sponsors may put their information into the chat box for you to write down. But I will be sending out the sponsor sheet. We'll have everybody's contact information on it. So with that, I want to work right into the introductions of our sponsors for today. I want to start out with COA Solutions. We have on today, we have Daniel Baum on. He is the founder and the CEO. Daniel, insurance broker, tell us about yourself and the company.
Thanks, Peggy. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me today. As Peggy said, my name is Daniel Baum, and I am the founder and CEO of COA Solutions of Florida. At COA, we focus on helping community associations, HOAs, board members, and community association managers to better understand and navigate the commercial property and casualty insurance process. In Florida, insurance is no longer just a renewal item. It's directly connected to maintenance, engineering, documentation, budgeting, claims, and the long-term financial health of the association. And that's why today's conversation is especially relevant. With Mauro of Paving Lady and Siobhan of United Professional Engineering, we're talking about the types of real property issues that boards and managers deal with every day. Pavement conditions, infrastructure concerns, inspections, repairs, safety, and of course, documentation. Those issues did not exist in a vacuum. They can impact liability, claim outcomes, underwriting questions, reserve planning, and how attractive or challenging an association may be in the insurance market. So today's topic, issues and solutions, is exactly the right conversation. The more proactive an association is about identifying physical issues, documenting them properly, and working with qualified vendors and professionals, the better position it is to control risk, protecting the community, and avoiding costly surprises. And if your association is finding difficult renewals or major premium increases or questions about coverages, concerns about claims, or you simply want a better understanding of where your insurance program stands, I'd be happy to connect. COA is here to help associations make more informed decisions before problems become expensive surprises. So thank you very much for having me, and I hope you will enjoy today's class.
Very good, Daniel. Awesome introduction. So he will be on the sponsor sheet. Next, I want to introduce Shawnee Haas. Shawnee's with us today from Munyon Contractors. Shawnee, tell us about yourself and what is Munyon doing these days?
Okay. I'm Shawnee Haas. I'm the marketing manager with Munyon Painting. We are painting and general contractors, and we've been in business for about 75 years now. We are third generation family owned and operated. We cover HOAs, condos, high rises, and offer a variety of painting services, exterior, interior, electrostatic, as well as pressure washing to help prep your home for painting or just to clean it up. We really pride ourselves on making communities look beautiful and well put together, and absolutely just love coming out and meeting everybody, whether it's through the webinars or different groups. And I hope we have a really great webinar today. Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you so much, and thanks for getting on today. Next, I want to introduce Diana Olert. She has a patch on her eyes, so we're just going to hear her voice today. Diana, tell us about yourself and the company. What's going on at Best Roofing these days? Hurricane season's coming, right?
Yes, definitely. Guys need to be ready. I apologize again, like Peggy said. Unfortunately, I had a little issue with health, so I cannot put the camera. But I'm the director of business development at Best Roofing, and as you guys know, we're prepping. We're trying to be sure that everything is ready for you guys. So this is a time that you need to be sure that you check everything in your building, that you do have a maintenance program in place, that you get cleaning, that you get a report, that you get something that says the specific situation on where your roofing stands on. So if anything happened, just God forbid, you do have a report, you do have something that shows that if any damage happened after a storm or a hurricane, that wasn't the condition how it was before. Unfortunately, you do need these reports to prove that, as we all know, because it's part of the insurance process when they do an investigation to have that information and be able to tell you exactly how much they can pay you and everything based on like the conditions, previous conditions of the building. So be sure that you have those papers on hand. Be sure that you don't have them in the computer, that you have them printed. Remember, if a hurricane hits, you are not going to have energy. You are not going to have a way to get access to them if you don't have them in physical. And be sure that you have these papers in a safe, in a nice, really a specific place where everybody will have access. So that's my information. If you ever need anything, I'm going to leave my information in the chat box. I will be more than happy to help you with questions or inspections or whatever you need at the moment. Thank you so much and have a wonderful class.
Thanks, Diana. Very good. Paper backup is always great. Keep it in the cloud. Everything is always great. So you never know what's going to happen. Next, I want to introduce Bob Aleka. Bob is the Vice President for Community Services at Faster.io. Bob, tell us about yourself and what are you guys doing for communities?
Thanks, Peggy. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Bob Aleka here with Faster.io. We provide streaming TV and internet through our fiber optic infrastructure. What makes us different is that our company provides dedicated speeds to the unit opposed to dedicated speeds to the property. Why is that important? Because more and more people have Wi-Fi devices in their home with artificial intelligence, security. So it's not a shared network among the unit owners. So that what makes us different from everybody else. Including our streaming TV, you can take wherever you want to go and change your address to get the locals of that zip code and change it when you come back. In addition, no two property is too small for us. We're doing units as little as 30 units. So if you think that you can't have fiber into your condominium because you're too small, please give me a call. We can help you and make that happen. So enjoy the class. Thanks so much. Thanks, Peggy.
Thanks, Bob. And hello to Michael. Next, I want to introduce a new face to us, but not a new company. We have Tyler Wolf on today. He's a senior elevator consultant from Clarkson and Varick. Tyler, welcome, and tell us about yourself and also what's the company doing these days.
Thank you, Peggy. Yes, my name is Tyler Wolf, Senior Elevator Consultant for Clarkson and Varick. We are a full-service elevator consulting firm. We work nationally. I focus mainly on Florida. I live in the Palm Beach area. I've been in the elevator industry for 20 years. Worked in various roles for the 3 largest elevator companies in the world, as well as the largest non-union independent elevator company in North America. And so Clarkson and Varick, we're a full service elevator consulting firm. We are completely third party. We have no affiliations with any of the elevator contractors. We provide a variety of services, including specifications and new equipment designs for new builds, where we work with architects and developers, but the vast majority of our business deals with existing elevator installations. The majority of our clients are condominiums, especially here in the Florida market, as you may imagine. And we get involved with everything from if they're having problems with their elevator contractor, a lack of transparency, aggressive billing practices, claims of obsolescence, or unreliable or unsafe elevator operations. We can get involved. We can do maintenance evaluations, which is basically like a third-party audit of the services being performed on your elevators. We can provide the documentation necessary to file for non-performance claims to break an elevator contract, which typically lawyers have a hard time breaking these ironclad elevator contracts. We also get involved with reserve studies, capital planning, life cycle analysis to determine when your elevator needs to be replaced or upgraded. And that's one of the main things we do as far as with code review and compliance, because there are some new retroactive code updates that everybody is being forced to comply with in the state of Florida by August of 2028. So if you are concerned that whether or not that applies to your building, we actually have a tool on our website and we can actually help with that free of charge. And one of the areas that we bring the greatest value is with elevator modernizations because there's not a defined scope of work with that. It's a large, tedious, very complicated project where typically does overwhelm LCAMs with that. So that's where we step in. We run the projects, we write the specifications, we do punch list visits, do some of the project management to make sure that your elevator modernization is done right, it's done on time, it's done per specifications. So that's who we are in a nutshell. So if you're having any elevator issues whatsoever, do not hesitate to reach out.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to share with everybody that earlier Tyler and I discussed they have an excellent CEU class that he's going to present probably in July timeframe. Information, please reach out to him. That's on the sponsor sheet. Now I want to introduce our attorney that we have on today, Dalia Anise. Dalia has her own company, Legacy Life Plan. Dalia, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so thank you, Peggy. My name is Dalia Anise. I am the founder of Legacy Life Plan. It's an estate planning law firm based in Boca Raton, but I serve individuals and families throughout our beautiful state of Florida. One thing I always like to share is that estate planning is not just about what happens when people pass away. And this is the general idea that many people have. It's also about protecting yourself during your lifetime, planning for incapacity, making sure that things are easier for the people you love and for yourself. The last thing you want is a judge who has no idea who you are, no idea what you prefer, to be making very personal decisions on your behalf. Because when someone becomes incapacitated, the bills need to be paid. Certain healthcare decisions need to be made. And a judge who has no idea who you are will be making those decisions for you if you don't have the right documents in place. So estate planning is about keeping your family out of court and out of conflict whenever possible. And this is especially important for individuals who are single and may not have someone to automatically step in an emergency situation. So if you have questions about wills, trusts, or incapacity planning or estate planning in general, I would love to support you and answer your questions. I will put a link in the chat where it will take you automatically to my calendar for you to book a free 15-minute call with me. Or I will also post my phone number. You can call my office and my staff can schedule that meeting for you. And I wish you really enjoy this wonderful webinar that Peggy has organized for us today.
You're welcome. Okay, and also Dalia from time to time does her own webinars, and I will be sure to invite everyone. Do not unsubscribe if you get an invite and you don't want to attend. Just delete the invite and stay on the list here for all the other webinars. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump down and I'm going to introduce Siobhan Gonzalez. She's with United Professional Engineering. Siobhan, tell us about yourself and tell us all the things. You have so much going on at UPE.
Oh, thank you so much, Peggy. I appreciate the introduction. Value being here. Thank you, everyone, for being on the webinar. and for the sponsors who make this possible. My name is Siobhan Gonzalez. I am the Director of Business Development and Client Relations here at United Professional Engineering. What I value so much about what we do and how we do it is that our firm is built on integrity, that we deliver results for our clients, for our boards, for our associations, and we've been doing this for over 20 years. We'll actually be celebrating 21 years locally owned, locally operating here out of South Florida, by our president and owner, Carmelo Giglio, who is a licensed PE, licensed SI. So if you know about that threshold inspector, that special inspector license is invaluable. He has great ties in the community. He has served twice as the president of the Florida Structural Engineers Association. He was also part of Surfside Working Group, helping support during the tragedy, after the tragedy, helping write new legislation to prevent that from happening again. I like to share that because I feel like it really displays our credibility and our value and emphasis on education, which is why we like to partner with these webinars. We're a full service structural engineering firm, so we help associations to be compliant with their recertifications, with milestones, phase 1, phase 2. We support from the roof to the garage and everything in between. What I will share and kind of leave you with is, so many times associations don't know when to call an engineer, and I say it is best to call us at the beginning, even if you're not sure. We are a trusted resource, and even if it's something that we would refer out, or we can at least provide that guidance to give you clarity and confidence as you move forward with your project. Included in our services is construction administration. So we oversee the project start to finish. Our president, Carmelo Giglio, if you haven't heard him, you will soon. He always says, a successful project is where everyone wins. So we are committed to our clients, to protect the budget, protect the association. And that's what you want to look for when you're interviewing your vendors for your associations. If you need any help, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Very awesome. So I'm going to also introduce the wind beneath my wings before I mention the sponsors that are not on today. I have Vinteum software on today. I want to start with Julia. If you'll just give a wave. She is just setting up everything behind the scenes. She is an intern. However, she is going to finish college and probably go permanent, I'm hoping. Bruno is on today. I'm sorry, Bruna. She is a new intern to the company. So if you want to wave, Bruna, you'll be, I'm sure, helping Julia in many ways. We also have Fabricio on today. Fabricio is running a lot of the things that are necessary also in the marketing group and marketing team and customer service. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Hugo. Is Hugo on to do the full introduction?
Yes, I'm
Hugo?
here, Peggy.
All right. Tell us about yourself and what you have exciting news about Vinteum to share.
Thanks for the introduction, Peggy. My name is Hugo. I'm the head of customer success and product here at Vinteum. And we've recently launched a new and, most importantly, 100% free product here, which is called Neigbrs Lite. Neigbrs Lite was built specifically for self-managed HOAs and condos that need a real professional community website, but don't have the budget or the time for a custom project. It gives you the essentials to run your association online, a public website, secure and centralized document storage, and a monthly resident notices as well. All completely free, no trial period, no credit card, and no time limit. You can set it up in about 10 minutes and customize it without hiring a developer or a graphic designer. It is perfect for those small communities or even for the ones who already have a provider and they don't feel 100% satisfied. If you are a property manager looking for more options in the market to make your services more competitive, this is also a great fit. We will send a link here in the chat where you guys can sign up to have your free portal and website with Neigbrs Lite. And if you have any further questions about this version or the paid one we offer, we will also be sending our contact information. Thank you very much for having me and have a great class.
Thanks, Hugo. That's awesome. I think that's just great for just community value. So Let me mention the following sponsors that are not on today, but they do play an incredible amount to the success of our webinars. We're starting with PD Concrete Specialists. PD has been around over 20 years. Daniel Pena is the contact on the sponsor sheet. He is the president. Also, we have Citizens Bank. First Citizens Bank. Jamie Gelfand, she's the vice president. To contact if you need a loan. Again, hurricane season's coming. Get your line of credit set up. We also have Southwest Elevator. Southwest has started out in the Southeast, actually, and they recently opened up an office in Tampa last year, so they have a couple of offices now around the state. We also have City Quiet Windows and Doors. The contact there is Ben Friedman, also the president. He has 4 offices now around the state, so be sure and ask for pricing and bids from him if you need things for your windows and doors. Hafer is another reliable, large sponsor that we have on our webinars. Hafer has got 4 locations around the state as well, a full-service CPA firm, and very, very reliable. I also want to mention Velocity Services Group. Velocity is a large loss restoration company. Rick Hogan is the contact there. And if you are in Tampa, Rick is going to be putting on, or in the West Coast, he's going to be putting on a lunch and learn, hopefully in June or early July. So look for that invite. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator for today, Siobhan Gonzalez, and I'll let you introduce our presenter. Thank you, everyone. Have a good webinar.
All right, so a couple quick housekeeping items. As Peggy mentioned, please make sure to put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get to them. Now, I have a question for this course. Would you like the questions during or wait until after?
If they want to put them into the chat, and you know, I can always answer during. If I think I'm going to answer it with anything I'm going to talk about in the presentation, I will let you know that. But you can put them in the chat and maybe stop me, and I'll tell you if I can answer them then or after.
Okay, great, awesome. So if you would actually love to take it.
I just want to interject there. Be sure and put them into the Q&A, not the chat. All questions go into the Q&A, okay? We're recording those. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, so actually, if you would, the paving lady is very well known in the industry for years, has an incredible reputation. Would love for you to share more about who you are and how you serve the way that you do to maintain such, that high standard in the industry.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. First and foremost, thank you for having me on. I appreciate, taking time out of your days to listen to me, especially talking about asphalt. It's not a very happy subject, let's call it. But let's just say that we are a full-service asphalt maintenance business. Paving Lady's been around for 35 years. I've owned it since 2016. We are a full-service asphalt contractor. We fix asphalt problems. We're on the floor. Anything that has to do with your parking lots, your sidewalks, your curbing, anything that has to do with replacement of your parking lots, your asphalt, your curbs. We do also offer some maintenance programs that we can help you take your budget dollars further. But I think I'll talk a lot about all what we do in our class, so I don't want to take too much more time. But if you need anything with your asphalt parking lots, your roadways, anything that's wrong with them, anything that you have a question and you need an answer about, give us a call.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's get right into the course.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I just want to make sure that you guys are going to see it right. Let me do this.
While you're pulling that up, I want to address a couple questions that we have in the Q&A already pertaining to contact information. You will be receiving all of the sponsors' contact information on the sponsor sheet. That's it for now.
Can you guys see my screen well?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Again, my name is Mauro Comuzzi, and this class is called Common Asphalt Issues and Solutions. I think the most important thing here is I want you guys to walk away from this with a little bit of common sense about asphalt and your pavement. It's really not rocket science. It's really not a difficult subject. I think we can explain it in a way that you're going to be armed to make some really good decisions going forward from this point. So let's jump right in and talk about asphalt. So this is the first slide. I think I spend most of my time here because it's very important for me to help you guys understand that in order to maintain something, you got to know how it's built, what it's made up of, how is it installed. It's very difficult for you to understand what you're looking at when it comes to a roadway, and know how to maintain it, or what kind of solutions you have to use to fix it if you don't know what it's made up of. Now, I want to just talk to you guys about what roadways are made up of in here, South Florida, or most of Florida. But, if you're from up north, it's going to be a little bit different. If you're from out west, it's going to be a little bit different. But here in South Florida, what I'm going to talk to you about today is pretty much what you see in any parking lot or roadway. So let's get right into this. If you see on the top right-hand corner, you're going to see something that looks almost like a cake. You have 3 courses. You have a sub-base course, a base course, and a surface course. When you all look out into your parking lots or your roads and you take a look outside and you see this black or gray surface, you think, well, that's my road or my parking lot. Well, it's only one layer of it. Let's call it, it's only the icing on the cake. What you're looking at is your asphalt pavement, which is your surface course. You've got to understand that below it, there's other things that have to be there to make sure that your surface course or your roadway works, and works for a long period of time. Now, any of these courses can work by themselves for a very short period, but in order to have something that's going to last you 20 years, these 3 things have to work together and have to be installed correctly. So very important to understand that. One can be there for a little bit on its own, but it takes all 3 of them working together to be able to give you a roadway or a parking lot that's going to last 20, 30 years. So let's get into the first one. Sub-base course. What's below? What's at the bottom? So your sub-base courses typically is your native soil. If you have a parking lot, before it used to be a vacant piece of property, now you want to build on it. An engineer comes along and decides, look, I'm going to take a look and see what's there now and see if we can build a parking lot on it. So what I want you to take away from a sub-base course is what your native soil or your native material that's there. Sometimes that material is good and you can build on it. Other times you have to import new material. Now, you as condo association members or board members, you're inheriting this. You're not getting to choose this, right? But it's very important that you understand that is what it is. It's something that was there prior to any construction, and it's probably been stabilized a little bit during the construction process to make sure that a parking lot or a roadway works, right? So what do they do to the sub-base? They compact it, they grade it, they get it to the level that they want, and they prep it for something that's going to come on top of it. The next thing, which is probably one of the most important parts of this, is what's called your base course. Your base course, for all intents and purposes, is really what your roadway is. Your base course is usually nowadays 8 to 12 inches thick, and usually it's made up of what's called lime rock now. When I say usually, it's because in the 80s, let's call it 70s and 80s, let's call it north of 595, a lot of times what was used as a base course was what's called shell rock. Shell rock is different than lime rock, and I'm going to go into both of those, but you got to remember, you've got 6 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches, depending on what it was designed for, of a base course. That's really what's holding all the loads of a car, your trucks on your roadway or your parking lots. That base course is really what's taking most of the load bearing of that roadway. So let's talk about shell rock. Shell rock is back in the 80s up here, they had the shell rock pits, and that was the base material that they used for base courses. Now, when you put shell rock down and you compact it and you wet it and you compact it and you wet it and you get it nice and hard and you get it to a point where it's very tight, that base course is a good base course. The only problem is it gets disturbed very easily. The difference between shell rock and lime rock is lime rock was what we use today, and it is a very stable. Once you compact it and roll it and cut it and roll it and cut it and get it compacted and hard, it's very, very difficult to disturb it. It will take a lot more, action to disturb that base course than, shell rock. So 2 different things here, shell rock and lime rock. Lime rock is what you typically use. The reason I bring up shell rock is a lot of you, if you're in HOAs or condos that were built in the 80s up here in Palm Beach County, typically what you're going to find is a shell rock base, and it can be disturbed easier than a lime rock base. But once that's installed, guys, once you have your sub base compacted and your base course compacted, Well, those two courses right there can be your road. If you're from the Midwest or anywhere that you ever watched a farmer or somebody install a dirt road or a gravel road, and they put in this gravel road and they compacted it and they got it, perfect, that's going to be okay as long as what doesn't happen, right? Here in South Florida, we have what's called rain, lots of it, right? And when it rains, it starts to disturb that base course. What happens to the base course is you start to get all those fines that have locked in together to give you a very solid base. With rain, it washes some of those particles away, and what happens is it starts to get a little loose. You get traffic that rolls on it, and what happens then? It gets a little looser. More traffic rolls on it. Now you start to get potholes or ruts in that roadway. So what I'm trying to explain is that base course is great until it gets disturbed by weather, vehicles, and things like that. So what do you need to do? You need to protect the base course. Well, many ways you can do that, but asphalt was invented and brought asphalt pavement. Let's call it asphalt pavement was invented and brought into this process because for many different reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is a flexible pavement. Okay, so let's talk about that surface course. It's asphalt pavement, right? And I keep saying asphalt pavement because I want you to think of two different things: asphalt and asphalt pavement. It's two different things. What is asphalt? Asphalt's a liquid, right? Asphalt's a liquid. But if you mix it with aggregate of different sizes, rocks, sand, all sorts of sizes, and you mix it in a plant through a plant, what happens is you get a pavement that's flexible when it hardens, and you can install a surface course of asphalt at an inch and a half, and it will take most of the loads of that a roadway or parking lot will be subjected to. Why is that important? Inch and a half. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see this in the camera, but that's pretty much an inch and a half right there, an inch and a half. What would happen if we use concrete? Everybody says, well, what if we use concrete? Well, if you put concrete down, it's not flexible. It would be brittle and it would crack. So asphalt's extremely, extremely beneficial because it's flexible. You can't see it, but it flexes. And for an inch and a half, you can protect that base course, right? So that surface course of asphalt, which is made up of asphalt pavement, which is aggregate and asphalt, well, that's really what's protecting everything that's below it. So let's talk about asphalt pavement, right? So asphalt pavement, we just talked about that. And if you look in there, if you can see it on there, it's a lot of different aggregates, different size aggregates. See them? So you've got different size aggregates with asphalt, and you've got different mix designs, okay? So I'm only going to talk about the mixed designs that you find here in South Florida because, up north is different than here, but asphalt pavement comes in different mixed designs. Let's talk about what we typically see down here. Down here, you typically have an S-type asphalt or an SP-type asphalt. So let's talk about the S-type asphalts. Well, those have been around for a very long time, very good mixes. You have a type S1, S2, or S3, okay? Type S1, S2, or S3. The numbers represent the size of the aggregate. So an S1 asphalt has the biggest aggregate, S2 smaller, S3 the smallest. So you can see there's two different mix designs here. This is the bigger aggregate, this is the smaller aggregate. So, in your typical condo or HOAs, you're going to find that you're going to see S3 asphalt. The reason you're going to see that is because aesthetically it looks nicer. When you look at the top of an asphalt roadway, you don't want to see big rocks in it. You want to see as smooth as possible. And if you use an S3 with the smaller aggregate, that's typically what you're going to find. And that's typically what you're going to find in most of the older neighborhoods or HOAs. What happened over time is, Department of Transportation needed to make those mixes better. So what did they do? They took a regular asphalt and they modified it and turned it into what's called SP, super pave asphalt. How did they do that? They modified the asphalt. They put polymer modified into the mix. So the asphalt became stronger, right? So they call it super pave. Super pave asphalt is actually, something that's going to last longer, something that's going to wear a little bit better. It's going to be able to repel gas and oil a little bit better. But one of the things that's also very important about SuperPave is that the quality control constraints and restrictions and the things that they make you do with quality control on SuperPave is a lot better than the S types. So SP asphalt, SuperPave asphalt is much better asphalt. So what do we learn here? You have 3 courses. Surface course is your asphalt pavement. Base course is your lime rock or shell rock, which is really holding all the loads. And sub-base course is your native soil. Asphalt pavement, the surface course, all it's really there for, that little piece of asphalt that's up on there, is really to serve as a waterproofing blanket for the rest of your roadway. And if you can take one thing away from here, is you as HOA board presidents, members, or anybody, you need to protect that surface course and maintain that surface course, because that's the only thing you can protect at this time when you inherit a roadway. So if you protect the surface course, the asphalt, the rest of it will typically be in better shape for a long period of time. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think it actually aligns with a question that we have. If
Sure.
right now is a good, perfect. So this person writes, oh, excuse me, I lost it. I had a new road installed 8 months ago. There are cracks all over. What should I do?
Okay, so the question is here, and we're going to actually talk a little bit about this, but I want you to take something away from what I'm about to tell you. How did they install a new roadway? Did they mill the original road a certain thickness down and then put new asphalt on top? Or did they start from the rock base and then put asphalt on top of it? The reason I say that is because there's such a thing called reflective cracking in asphalt. So any cracks that were in the original surface, if you put asphalt on top of asphalt, is going to reflect through. Same thing with concrete. If you ever had a tile floor crack on you, guess what? The concrete below it is probably what cracked reflecting through. So I would have to study that a little bit more, but it could be that it was reflecting through from the bottom. And realistically, cracks in asphalt are not bad. It's a characteristic of asphalt. Asphalt's going to crack, just like concrete will. What you have to watch out is the severity and how much it's cracking, right? Just one crack here or there, it's not going to cause huge problems here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Perfect. Thank you.
This next slide I like to talk about briefly is because typical life cycle. I want you to take away from this is that there is no typical life cycle of asphalt. Asphalt, all parking lots and roadways are going to age different. They're going to wear different. They're going to, depending on the traffic, depending on where they're installed, depending on how they were installed. So it's kind of like us, right? All of us have different life cycles, right? Some of us are going to last longer than others. But if you look at this graph here, it's, what you're going to notice is that as asphalt gets older, the more maintenance you need to do to it. Kind of sounds like us, right? As we get older, we need more maintenance to ourselves, And also, if you maintain your asphalt when it's younger, in its younger years, by seal coating and patching and things, taking care of the things you have to, what's going to happen? You should last longer. Your roadway should last longer. So what I really want you to take away from this graph here is this: as asphalt gets older, it's going to require more maintenance. And if you take care of asphalt and apply your maintenance dollars in the early years of asphalt pavement, what's going to happen is it should last you longer. And when I say should, it's because all parking lots are different. You might have an HOA that only gets 15 only has 15 residents, right? That's only 15 cars a day. Or an HOA that has 3,000 residents. That's a lot of cars every day. Asphalt's going to wear a little bit different, right? So realistically, what I want you to really take away from this is as it gets older, it will wear, and you need to spend more money on maintenance on it. So very important there. Let's talk about cracking, which is going to go back kind of what we just talked about, right? So I want to talk about the typical issues that you guys are going to have, right? And cracking is one of them. And let's talk about the little question that we had and what we're looking at here. Alligator cracking, the one on the top. Alligator cracking is called alligator cracking because, let's face it, it looks like a skin of alligator, right? What causes this, right? Typically what causes this is water gets under the surface between the asphalt and the base. Remember, we talked about you got an asphalt pavement, you got the base below it. Water gets between that, and a car runs over it, cracks the asphalt a little bit. More water gets between it, a car runs over it again, and you multiply this 1,000 times until you have what it looks like here in this picture. Usually what happens here is there's some sort of base failure, and it's failing more outward than it is downward, right? Because if it was failing more downward, it's going to be more of a pothole than it is here. You can see this horizontally spreading on the asphalt there, and it's very important to catch this very quickly, because if not, you'll be replacing parts of your roadway or your parking lot and not just a little area. So it's important to be able to catch this as quickly as you possibly can. And how do you fix this? You take that area, you isolate it, you cut square patch, remove the affected asphalt, get to the base, recompact the base, add new base material if needed, and then you put new asphalt in. That's what we call a full depth patch. You're removing all the asphalt, putting the asphalt back, and you're reworking the base if you have to, right? So alligator cracking is bad. You don't want it, because look how much cracking is happening in a small area, right? Let's talk about reflective cracking. What I suspect this person that asked is probably was experiencing. Reflective cracking is a crack that reflects from the surface below to the surface above. So for instance, if I put asphalt on top of this asphalt, you see that crack in it?
Mm-hmm.
Sooner or later, that crack will appear on the new asphalt. So if I put asphalt on top and went about my business, sooner or later, that crack that's there will reflect through this surface. So reflective cracking is something that's going to come from the bottom. Now, you cannot prevent it. You cannot prevent it. Reflective cracking will happen. You can minimize it. And I'll tell you how to do that in a little bit and later in the presentation. But if you look at this picture, what do you see about this picture? The one on the bottom. Look at the perfect squares. Asphalt doesn't crack in perfect squares. What that was a concrete parking lot, and those are the joints of the concrete parking lot. So those joints have reflected through the asphalt. And, it's like in your garages. If you put tile in your garage or any kind of surface on your garage and your garage floor is cracked, that crack will reflect through. I've seen it in tile in a kitchen as well. There's ways to minimize it, but you will not prevent cracking to happen on asphalt or concrete. It's very difficult to do that. It will happen. It's a characteristic. Now, up north in New York, Chicago, Indiana, anywhere of the states where you have a heave and a frost, when it starts to snow and it freezes and the water expands, that's where cracks are bad. Here in South Florida, a crack here and there in your asphalt, it's a characteristic of asphalt. If you go out into my parking lot right now here at my shop, you will see cracks in the parking lot, and I'm not worried about them. There hasn't been a parking lot or a roadway that I've installed that hasn't cracked, and they're all going to crack. It's just characteristic of asphalt. It's being run over every single day by heavy loads, trucks, whatever. It's just going to happen. You just got to make sure it doesn't look like the picture above, all concentrated in one area. That'll tell you there's a problem in that area. That make sense? Okay. Potholes. See these every single day, right? Now, this is probably one of the biggest liabilities that you're going to have either in your HOA, your condo, a shopping center, anywhere. Why? Very easily can cause damage to a person, a vehicle, anything that goes and falls into that pothole has a chance of being damaged or injured, correct? So here in South Florida or here in Florida, we're attacked from the top and from the bottom with potholes. Let me explain why. From the top, what do you have? Let's go from the bottom. From the bottom, here in South Florida, 3 feet below me right now is probably water, and it's constantly moving below me, right? Florida, right below us, there's water, and it's constantly moving. What happens when that water moves? It destabilizes the sub-base layer that's below everything, right? As water moves, it can cause a void below the roadway and the sub-base. When that happens, what happens? You have a sinkhole, which is really a pothole also. Now, here in South Florida, you have these little sinkholes, little potholes like that. But if you're from like Lando Lakes or Zephyr Hills up in North Florida, you go to sleep and you look and you have a neighbor, you see a house and a neighbor. The next day, you look, you wake up and there's no house, big sinkholes up there. Here we have smaller ones, especially when you get closer to the water, right? When you're at canals, when you're next to a canal, when you're next to the intercoastal, closer to the ocean, with the tidal, the rising and falling of the tide, you're also going to get potholes that are going to form from the bottom because of that. During the rainy season, when it's very saturated, you'll see that. You'll go to a parking lot and there's nothing in that parking lot, no potholes. You go back a week later and there's a pothole. Why? A lot of water, a lot of saturation underneath, a lot of water moving causes a pothole. Now from the top, again, you have a crack that's really bad. Water gets into there, causes an issue below, right? And car runs over it, cracks it more until this completely breaks down. And like in the bottom right-hand picture, and you have a lot of water that gets in there and washes away that base, and more cars that run over it 1,000 times, and this is what you get is a pothole. Now, very important that you get these things fixed immediately because of the liability that they can cause to your guests, your residents, pets, whatever it is driving into this or walking through it, right? How do you do this? You do what's called a full depth patch. You cut out the pothole, take a square, remove the asphalt, throw in new rock into the pothole if you need to, throw in new asphalt, roll it and compact it, and you're left with a level surface again. Root damage. Root damage asphalt is also extremely prevalent here in South Florida. Why? We have a lot of invasive trees with a lot of invasive roots. Palm trees, oak trees, all sorts of hedges that will cause roots to damage asphalt. Everybody here in South Florida loves their shade trees, but one of the things that those shade trees have is roots, and especially the oak trees. So, back in the day, they used to put these 3-foot islands in parking lots, right? A landscape island 3 foot wide with a little oak tree in it. Well, that oak tree is going to grow up to be a big oak tree. And, in 10 years, it's going to probably overtake the island and crack the curb and crack the parking lot. So very important that you fix this. The liability is big here as well. People tend to be on their phones all the time when they're walking around their cars. And what happens? You trip because you're not looking over an area that has root damage. And, very simple to solve this. Preventing it is more difficult. But to solve this, you do what's called a full depth patch again. You cut out the asphalt at the area where the root is. You cut the root within the asphalt area, remove it, put in new asphalt, recompact the asphalt, and you start all over. Very important, though. You have to continuously prune the roots on the outside of the asphalt area. If not, that tree will continue to grow. Those roots will have their way. They will find their way back into your asphalt. They're not going to stop. They don't discriminate. They're going to continue. So very important to do this. You can do this with root barriers. You can ask your landscapers about that. You can also do it with curbing, what's called a type D curb. Put in a curb that has a 12-inch footing, sometimes a 12-inch footer that comes down. Sometimes that's enough to stop the root to getting into your asphalt area. So very important. Take care of this liability as soon as you see it. Oil damaged asphalt. So many of you in condo associations are going to see this. And typically we see it a lot in the rental communities as well. This is coming from your cars. It's coming from contractors. It's coming from, in the HOAs. You're going to see it a lot from hydraulic fluid from garbage trucks, right? This can wreak havoc on your asphalt as well. That oil will damage the asphalt. And when it penetrates it, it will make it softer. It breaks it down. And you can actually take a key and go. And if, next time you see an oil spot like that, take a key. You can pick it out with your key. It's almost like picking out butter sometimes. That's how soft it gets. Best way to eliminate this is make sure everybody fixes their car, but you're never going to be able to do that. The second best way is to seal coat your parking lot. We'll talk about seal coat later. Seal coat acts as a barrier, keeping everything on top until it rains and it washes off, right? It doesn't allow anything diesel, oil, or the hydraulic oils that we talked about to penetrate into the asphalt. So that's very important as well. So water's the enemy. right? I mean, everything we're trying to do is to keep water from sitting on your asphalt, okay? Remember I said cracks aren't that bad? Look, if you have a crack, if you have a crack and water's running pretty nicely over it and flowing because there's enough slope to get to the drain, you're okay. But if you have a crack that's in the bottom of one of these two puddles that I'm showing you here on the bottom, those are the things you want to take care of. That's why I say cracks are not always bad. All right. But water's our enemy. All right. And typically one of the things that we're asked to do all the time is to move water. Sometimes we can't do it. We can't take water from where it is into a drain. But what we can do, if you look at the puddle on the right-hand side, we call that a bird bath, right? And if it dries within 24 to 48 hours, don't worry about it. The one on the left is a little bit deeper. That's more of a, it's kind of like a little lake. It's not a puddle. But if it's a couple inches deep, that water's going to sit there for a week. So what do we do as contractors? If we can't get it to move to a drain, the best thing to do is take that depression that's out of it, that's there out of it. You want to cut out the asphalt, level that whole area. Now a 5x5 puddle might turn into a 10x10 puddle, but instead of being 2 inches deep, is now a quarter of an inch deep, and it will evaporate within 6 hours after a rain. That's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to disperse the water to get it to evaporate and get it to get into the atmosphere and not on your asphalt. You cannot move water where you want to move it. Florida here, the way we design parking lots here in Florida is with about a 2% slope. Have you guys ever seen a 2% slope? Well, look, this is level. You want to see 2%? That's 2%. It's the same thing. It doesn't move. 2% and level, you can't tell the difference. What I'm trying to tell you here, it's very difficult to get it to move. Up north in New York and up in northern states where you have mountains and hills, you can walk out of a store and there could be a 6-foot drop between the storefront where you are and the end of the parking lot. Here, it's about 3-inch drop. So yeah, it's very difficult to move the water. What you're trying to do is disperse it the right way. I skipped over that one slide because all that really was me telling you guys, listen, I understand that it's very difficult for people that don't know the business and don't know, about asphalt maintenance, how to really spend their budget dollars. And I know it's very difficult because you're trying to do the best thing you can for your associations and your properties. The best thing I could tell you is, look, take more classes like this. This will help. Also, you want to be able to get somebody that you trust. Somebody that's going to tell you what you have to do, not what you want to do. Most people don't want to spend the money that they might have to. And you want to make sure as property managers that you're spending your money the right way. And I understand that. So it's very important that you find somebody that you trust, that you can ask a question to in the pavement industry like myself or anybody else that you use that will tell you, hey, stop seal coating it. You're not going to do anything with seal coat anymore. You need to overlay or pave it. Or you don't need to repave it yet. You can seal coat it for another 10 years. And maybe you can get the 10 years out of it. So it's very important that you find somebody and you make those right decisions. And I know that it's very difficult for you and I know that's something that people struggle with, is making the right decision and making sure that they've spent their money the right way. So what I want to talk about now is some of the solutions and some of the remedies that you can take to maintain your parking lots and your roadways and to make them last longer. One of them is asphalt overlay, or another thing is resurfacing, right? They call it resurfacing. There's different lingos that everybody calls. I love it because here in South Florida, we call it overlaying. Up north, they'll call it resurfacing. Somewhere else, they'll call it blacktopping. It's just different terminologies, but they're all pretty much the same. Let's talk about what we do here, asphalt overlay. What does that mean? Is you take old asphalt and you're just going to put asphalt on top, which is a very good maintenance procedure for a roadway or a parking lot. But as we learned earlier, we know that anything that's cracked in that original parking lot is going to reflect through the new surface. So what's very important is you got to make sure that it's still in pretty good condition, right? If it's minor cracking and there isn't any depressions in the asphalt that you have to fix first, or any root damage that you have to fix all those things first. Then if it's not that cracked up and it's pretty good, you put a 1 inch or 1.5 inch overlay on top of it, and that's going to give you another 20 years of that surface. Now, the good news about doing an overlay is because you're taking an inch of asphalt, and then you're throwing another inch on top. Now you got 2 inches of structural asphalt. Your structural number is actually increasing. You're not taking away thickness, you're adding more thickness as long as the original asphalt's in good condition. So it does give you a little bit more of a perpetual pavement that's going to last longer. But if you overlay, it's very important that your contractor, whoever's doing it, ties into the existing surfaces flush. What do I mean by that? So if you notice in this picture, you have driveways and you have valley gutters. You want to make sure that that asphalt's finishing flush against that and you don't have a tripping hazard. Because if you're putting an inch of asphalt on top, you should have about an inch more than those surfaces. And the way you do this to tie in is you either key cut, which is you remove the asphalt next to those surfaces for about a foot, foot and a half, and then you can finish flush against that. So asphalt overlay is very, very, very good maintenance procedure. It's probably one of the easiest because you're just coming in and putting asphalt on top of it, of what's there already. But you have to make sure that the surface that's there now is in good enough condition to take a new asphalt surface. Remember we talked earlier about if there's a lot of cracks, how are we going to prevent or minimize the reflective cracking? And the best way to do this is what we say is milling. When you mill and repave, when you mill and overlay, meaning let's say you have a lot of asphalt, you have this much asphalt there now, 1.5 inches, 2 inches in your parking lot, and it's cracked a lot throughout, and you don't want it to reflect through as much. So what you do is what's called mill the surface, which is you're taking some thickness off this asphalt. And what does that typically do? If you notice, this crack here doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. It's only at the top. So typically when you mill a certain thickness off, you're going to remove most of the crack or the surface cracking, and you may be left with some, but you're not going to be left with all of that cracking that was originally there. So milling and removing a certain thickness of asphalt and then repaving it by putting asphalt on top after you mill is another procedure, which is called milling and paving. So that also will add 10, 15 years, maybe 20, depending on how much asphalt you have left from after you mill. So it's a very good procedure. You see it all the time. And you see it here on the bottom left-hand corner, a milling machine that's just chewing up the asphalt, putting it into the truck, and then that asphalt goes to be recycled. So milling and paving, it's very good, especially if you have a lot of surface cracking and you want to end up with a better surface to pave. What you're trying to avoid is what you see in the bottom right-hand corner is having to start over all the way down to the base and having to do any remediation of your base. That becomes extremely expensive. So per square foot, a milling pave could cost you a few dollars. If you get into repaving, it could cost you tens, $20 a square foot to have to do something like that. So you're trying to really watch what you do in terms of your maintenance to make sure that you don't get to a point where you have to completely redo your roadway or parking lot. Patching.
And I'm so sorry to interrupt. I see a question on milling.
Yes.
So it says there is a point where if the crushed rock is not properly applied and the lot needs to be milled and graded, recoating should be done how often?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, Siobhan.
Yeah, that's okay. So it says, it writes, there is a point where if the crushed rock is not properly applied and the lot needs to be milled and graded, recoating, how often should that be done?
So it's a little confusing, the question, but let me try to answer a couple of things here. So number one, if the rock base was not installed correctly from the beginning, you're in a bad position, right? Because there's nothing you as an HOA board member or president can do. That rock base, if it wasn't put in correctly from the beginning when it was first put in, you will have failure, maybe not the entire roadway, but you will have large failures throughout your HOA or your parking lot, right? So if that happens, the only way to fix that is you need to mill that rock back up. You need to mill up all the asphalt. Then you need to rework the base. Or you can do what's called full depth reclamation. You can mix everything together with a big grinder right in your roadway or your parking lot and use that as the new base. Now, if that was installed correctly and you have good asphalt on top, and I think they're asking how often should you mill and pave or overlay, you can do that every 15 years, probably every 20 years, right? And seal coating is different, and we'll talk about seal coating a little bit later here. I hope I answered it. The question was a little weird, but I hope I answered it correctly for that.
I think so.
Let's talk about patching. Okay, this is typically what you're all going to see. I mean, all of you have seen patching. Every single person has seen it in their parking lots or roadways. You know, there's three in my book. There's really three ways you can patch. This is, you can do what's called cold patch, a skin or skim patch, or a full depth patch. Let's talk about cold patch. 20 years ago, if you asked me, Mauro, do you believe in cold patching? I would have told you no. Cold patch, if you guys don't know what it is, you and I right now can go to Home Depot and buy a bag of asphalt. It's called cold patch material. You buy the bag of asphalt, you take it out to if you have a hole in your driveway, you open up the bag, you put it into the hole, and you compact it with a tamper, and you have a pretty good patch. The materials used today for cold patch now are pretty good, but it's still just a temporary patch. What is it useful for? It's useful to take care of a liability and to stop further damage from happening. So, but again, it's only a temporary fix, right? So if you look at this top right-hand picture, you see a guy with a truck, and you see all those bags in that truck. My little joke here is if you need that many bags to fix your parking lot, you need a new parking lot, okay? So there's only so much cold patch can do. It's not going to fix your whole parking lot, but it can stop the damage from happening and continuing. So it's hand applied. You see the guy with a tamper applying it, and it is great if you have a maintenance guy to have a bag of this around, and they can really stop the damage and fill in a hole that could be a liability to your guest. Skin or skim patches, I don't really like to talk about these, but I do because I see them every now and then. If you have an area that's alligator cracked, remember we talked about alligator cracking? If you have an area that's alligator cracked, but you don't want to spend the money yet to remove all the asphalt, recompact the base, and the reason you don't want to spend the money is because you know that in 6 months, let's say you're having construction in your clubhouse or at your HOA somewhere, and you know you're going to repave anyways, well, what you can do is you put asphalt right on top, call it a skin or a skim patch, compact it and roll it, but it's only temporary. All those cracks will reflect through, but you really don't care. What you're trying to do is make it so it doesn't get worse. That's a skin or a skim patch. You're just putting asphalt on top of the area. You're gluing it on with what's called tack. I don't see it. I don't do these anymore, but I see them, but I think it's very important to talk about them. The other one is what's called full depth patching. This is what we do. And it's a permanent repair. Once you do this, it's going to last hopefully forever. But if you notice in that second picture, you're going to notice that this is cut out completely. The only thing I don't like about that picture is that it's not a perfect square. I like squares and rectangles, no more corners. I don't like to introduce more corners into anything I do because corners are typically a weak area of a structure. So you have corners in your pavement. I don't like it. So, my joke there is my salesman couldn't sell the other 6 feet that we needed for that patch to be square. So, you cut out the patch, perfect square, then you clean out the rock, you compact it, as you can tell, and then you put asphalt in it, and it ends up looking like what you have in the bottom picture there. Very important, though, if it's any more than 2 inches, deep, you want to make sure that your contractor is putting it back in lifts, okay? A lift of 2 inches at a time, okay? So that's patching. And the last thing we're going to talk about, how to preserve that asphalt and how to, maintain it and make it last as long as you can. It's the seal coating process. Now, I get asked a lot if I believe in seal coating, and my answer has always been yes, wholeheartedly. but I have a asterisk, and the asterisk is as long as you do it at the right time. And I'm going to explain that to you in terms that we can all understand. Here in South Florida, let's say today, instead of sitting here in this classroom or in our offices, we decided we're going to take this class out at the beach. So we decide we're going to meet at the beach at 8 o'clock. We show up at the beach. We do this class. We're all sitting there. Sun's out, not a cloud in the sky. We have some refreshments. We decide to eat. We're having such a good time with this class that we forget, and the time goes by, and now 2 o'clock comes around, and we're out on the beach, and we look at our skin, and we start to tap it, and we go, oh, boy, I need to put sunblock on. Well, it's too late. The damage has already been done to your skin, and the same thing with asphalt. Asphalt, to me, if you seal coat it in the right intervals, if you do it too late, the damage has already been done. If you do it early enough, you can definitely protect it better than if you do it a little bit later on. Let me explain that, okay? Asphalt is like our skin. Remember, asphalt wears from the top down. From the top down, that's how it wears. So the top here becomes brittle with sunlight. You've seen asphalt go from a jet black color to a whitewash color, right? It goes from black to almost white on the streets. Why? It's being oxidized by the sun. The minute you put it down, it's being oxidized by the sun. So as it gets oxidized, it becomes brittle. Remember I told you it was flexible? Well, if it gets oxidized by the sun, it becomes brittle and it loses that flexibility. And what starts to happen, it starts to wear off and you start to see more of a rocky surface. So that asphalt, that binder that holds everything together, starts to wear off and you get more of a rocky surface. And it starts to wear from the top down. So just like sunscreen for you at the right time before you ever get out in the sun, it's important to seal coat your asphalt as soon as you possibly can. The best time to do it is 1 year, no earlier than 1 year that after you put it in. So if you hire me and we do a mill and pave or an overlay of your property and we install brand new asphalt, 1 year after that is when you're going to seal coat. The reason you wait 1 year is the original asphalt that we put down, the only way that this will cure, this right here, is for all the oils to come to the surface and evaporate. Okay? Come to the surface and evaporate. That, the heat will do that, traffic will do that. And what happens if I seal coat too early? Well, if I seal coat this, I'm not allowing those oils to get to the surface and evaporate. Plus, the oils that are sitting on top aren't going to let the seal coat stick on it. So you're going to have premature wearing of your sealer, and you're going to have a slower aging curing process of your asphalt, leaving it soft for a longer period of time. So seal coat after 1 year, and then you want to do it at intervals of 3 to 5 years, depending on the traffic. Like I said, there isn't an HOA or a condo association that's the same. It's going to wear differently. And so every 3 to 5 years is a good, interval. Types of sealer: coal tar emulsion, asphalt emulsion. Coal tar emulsion, asphalt emulsion have both been around for a long time. We use coal tar. We like coal tar. I feel that it stands up to diesel, oils, sun, water better than asphalt emulsion. But there's a preference depending on the homeowner association. Also, some people like coal tar, other people like asphalt emulsion. We've had great luck with coal tar emulsion. And the application, the way you apply sealer, is you apply either with a squeegee or a brush, or you spray it. So, you do 2 coats, 2 thin coats, and you can. What we like to do is we like to do 1 coat squeegee and 1 coat spray. We do one of each. The squeegee puts down more sealer on the ground. The spray comes along and makes it look nicer because you're finishing that area. But very important to do it at the right time. Very important to do it at the right intervals. And when you it's probably one of the most intrusive application methods or maintenance things that you do to your asphalt, because you have to stay off of it for 24 to 48 hours. When you pave, you can drive on it the same day. But when you seal coat, 24 to 48 hours, you got to stay off of it so it does displace residents. That's why people like to do it during the summertime when there's less people around. But we fight a lot of rain in that time, so it makes it harder. But there's no wrong time to do it. You just want to make sure you're doing it the right interval with your asphalt that was installed. That's it. This is my presentation. So if there's any other questions, I'd love to answer them.
Yes, there are. And one that also has to do with timing. So this reads, unfortunately, I live in a 309 unit COA and wondering when is the best month of the year for us to properly resurface our 20-year-old property. And we're also painting the outside of our units and garages. Which should we do first? And should we wait for after the hurricane season? Thanks.
So my answer is always going to be you want to do your parking lot last. You know, if you're doing landscaping, if you're doing painting, if you're doing roofing, if you're doing any kind of construction, wait till it's all done. And then, you want to do your asphalt. Asphalt stays soft for a long period of time. When I say soft, it's still hard, but it's soft enough that where construction equipment might, damage it a little bit. When's the best month? If you're seal coating, I like to do seal coat in the spring or the fall where it's not too hot or too humid. If you're paving, kind of the same thing, because in the summertime, we're fighting against the rain every single day. But most HOAs, condo associations want us in the summertime because there's less people around. So the best time to do it, I would tell you, it's going to be the spring or the fall because of the weather. Pretty much anything, seal coating or paving.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Also, there's another question here regarding seal coating. It says, does the seal coating get picked up by your shoes and deposited on the walkways?
Not if it's dry. Let's put it that way. So, let me asterisk that, because when you put sealer down on the ground, and this is why I like to do it in the spring or in the fall. If it's extremely hot, that sealer will stay tacky because the seal coat has water in it. And the way that seal coat cures is the water evaporates into the atmosphere, right? If it's very hot out, that water evaporates a little bit too fast and it stays tacky a little bit longer, okay? And when that happens, you might get some mild tracking, but when you see most of the sealer tracking onto, let's call it a sidewalk or a driveway, is when people go through it when it's wet.
Okay. Here's another question. It's a little specific. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly share it. It says the city of Hollywood is doing underground electric, and they keep digging by the land post, which is connected to our parking lot. So even if my lot is perfect, the damage they do will allow water to subside under my lot. They refuse to seal it properly and come and use asphalt in a bag, which does not last. And the problem is out of my control. What do you suggest?
The best thing that I could tell you is when it comes to city work and things like that, I have been involved in city work. I do work for a lot of municipalities. The contract that they have with with what they're doing and the people that are actually doing the work, I'm not sure what they're supposed to do. But I always say, if there's ever an issue and you have to voice yourself, you go to a commission meeting and you voice your concerns at the commission meeting. And typically you'll get their attention. Writing emails and things like that typically doesn't go very far. They get lost in translation. But if you go there, you'll be heard, and most of the time somebody will address you.
That's a great suggestion about the commission, about those meetings. That's great. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
There's one more question really quick. The parking areas under the carport is in much worse condition than the roadway. Why? Question mark.
This is a good one, because think about what a roadway looks like and what a carport covered area looks like, right? The same equipment that I can usually, let me back up. When you lay asphalt, it goes down soft. You roll it with a huge roller to get it to impact it and get it hard, right? That same roller that I compact the roadway with will not fit under your carport most of the time. So the way that your carports were built or repaved, the same methods that you're trying to do out on the roadway, you cannot do under the carport. Therefore, the compaction that you get under a carport is less than you would on your roadway. You're going to see a difference in, let's call it the longevity and actually the texture under carports, but it's almost industry standard. There's really not a lot you can do because you're limited on what equipment you can put under those carports.
Very interesting. I have to say, you know, these excellent job. Thank you so much. It was really great to hear, you know, how this works. I see your name everywhere. Certainly trusted in the industry. So it was nice to be able to learn more about what you do, how you do it, how you can serve associations. And, you know, to your point, I feel like these webinars add so much value because, as you mentioned earlier, you know, you want to go with someone that you can trust, right? Yeah. Because every project is going to have its challenges. So, you know, when you have that trusted professional who's expertise, licensed, you know, in your corner with your best interest, you know, that's the way to do it.
I always say, look, I'm not the only one that can pave. There's plenty of companies that can do what I do. And, you know, I've said it before, don't judge my company. Don't judge a company or my company when things are going great. You want to judge me when things are going bad, right? So the difference between I believe my company and me is, number one, is at the top, me. And number two is the way that we service our customers, right? Are we going to have issues? Absolutely. Absolutely. If I don't want issues, I just shouldn't go to work because I'm going to have issues every single day. I had issues today. I had issues while we were sitting here. I looked at them on my phone. But it's how we react to them and how a company, you know, you may not be what you want, but the way you react to it, you do the best you can. And most of the time, it comes out the right way.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Peggy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it is all about customer service because the ones that run away, you're never going to get your answer fixed or take care of the problem. So, but thank you so much. Thank you, sponsors. Again, thank you, all you CAMs that are on today and board members. Okay, thank you for being conscientious about doing your homework to get ready for projects. And we know that this is a costly project, so getting expert advice goes a long way. And Mauro certainly has it for how many years now? 30, 35 years? I want to tell on you.
Oh, wait, you're muted.
He started when he was 12.
I said it's been a long time. You can tell by my hair.
There you go. All right. Well, before I close, let me mention some very exciting webinars and events I've got coming, starting with this Friday. I have another construction summit coming, and this one is going to be focusing on construction financing. So we have Dr. Thomas Engelbaum coming in from the First Citizens Bank. He's going to talk all about loans, some of the new laws with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So please try to join us on that one. The Friday Construction Summit webinars are always from 10 a.m. to 12. Okay, it's a CEU class plus a panel. But I'm very excited. I'm around the corner. Next Tuesday, a week from today, is the Hurricane Huddle Expo and Conference at the Hilton Palm Beach International Airport. It's a repeat from last year. Huddle up with us and hunker down. It's going to be a room full of some very, very qualified and certified industries, knowledgeable and experienced vendors, the sponsors. And then we also have 2 panels and a keynote speaker. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit. The first one, I hope if you're in the Palm Beach area, you'll come and contribute to the panel that starts at 11:30. It's one hour created for board members. And we have on the panel the Executive VP, Brian Street from Castle Group, who's going to represent the property management arm of condominium management. Then we have 2 presidents coming in from boards in the area, in the Palm Beach area. And we also have the attorney coming in, Peter Rosen, I'm sorry, got that mixed up. Peter from K. Bender Renbaum. And then also on the 26th, the following week, on Tuesday, we have Coffee with the County coming back. They're going to focus on a follow-up to the hurricane event. It's called What to Do with Pets During a Hurricane. Now, they will also have a table that is the Palm Beach County Emergency Management Team. And be sure and stop by their table if you come to the expo. It is free. It does include lunch. And there are door prizes. We had a lot of fun last year. Last year we did a raffle ticket tree. We're going to do the same thing again. People were fighting over it, so I hope you can join in with us. And then on the 29th of May, we're going to close out the month with Dan Wasserstein, an attorney who's going to talk about fining. So not a public subject that we want to talk about, but it's something that's very, very important in the community. So please join us. We will have a calendar going out with this particular webinar follow-up with the sponsor sheet. Can't thank you all enough. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.